Hello all. I find this subject bizarre and fascinating. I only very recently noticed that these stones aren't where I remembered them being. I watched my earlier video article I made about them nearly 3 years ago, and it seems to have changed visual on there as well. However, at 12 minutes and 45 seconds in my video article I made about 3 years ago, titled Dundee Balgarthno Ancient Stone Circle, my short article, Scotland, 0.2020, of which I'll put a link in the description in here. In my article video at 12 minutes 45 seconds from start, I say in reference to the stone circle, it's just tucked in that corner down there. Tucked being the key word, which suggests they were tucked away, but strangely they don't appear to be anymore, even in my article, though my audio in that article says otherwise. Possibly my audio being residual evidence of this. The link to that complete article video will be in the description of this video. I will let you hear a snip of my audio from my article now, before continuing on with this video.
It's just tucked in that corner down there. It's just tucked in that corner down there. Tucked in that corner down there. Well, I thought I'd just log something in. As far as I'm concerned, it's it would resemble the Mandela effect phenomenon. It's regarding the Balgarthno standing stones, Balgarthno stone circles. For a start, that was never there before. In the past, it looks as though they have been recently made. You know, all this grass area was here for ages. But the thing that's strange about this is that I've visited these standing stones, or the stone circle, whatever way you want to call it. I visited it before and I've done a video on it, and as far as I'm concerned, they were further down that way. They were further back and they were down there, and it wasn't as easy to find. There wasn't a sign or a stone notice there, but it was certainly, as far as I'm concerned, they were over there. Now, they wouldn't have moved them because it's supposed to be ancient standing stones, and there isn't any, an ancient stone circle, there isn't any evidence of them being moved. So I'm thinking it could be something like along the lines of what you could refer to as the Mandela effect phenomena. So I'm logging this in. I discovered this just a couple of days ago, because I drive the buses up and down that road there. I was on one of my routes, and I looked over this way and I spotted right away that the stone circle was much nearer the road. It's much easier to see. Now, as far as I remember, and as far as I'm concerned, it was down that way and it was kind of tucked out of sight. It wasn't as easy to find. Now it's like they've moved up the way and inwards as well, nearer the centre. There isn't any evidence of them ever being moved. I mean, that's what the phenomenon is like anyway. So in other words, if you look back all the records in the history, that they'll have always been here in this location, in this timeline as I refer it to, and that's all I do. I refer it to as reference, because I don't know what's going on. I have no idea, but I do know that these stones have definitely they weren't here in this area. They were further down, and it was harder to find. It was tucked out of sight a bit more. It was down that way and sort of further back. So I've done a video on these stones on my channel. Now that's what I meant when I say the Mandela effect phenomena. That's like, you can look back at the videos, you can look back at records in this timeline, and it'll always, but would probably have always been here in this location, in this timeline. Now, the rest of the timelines, it gets complicated because I'm not even going to attempt to try and explain the Mandela effect. I don't know what the Mandela effect is. I don't know if it's a Mandela effect neither. But what I do know is that all I could say for 100% sure is that I know what I remember, and I know that when I see them there, it feels like the whole thing is shifted up and more into the centre. because it struck me as very odd, because as I say, I drive the buses up and down that road on one of my routes. I drive all over the city, but one of my routes does include that road, and I pass up and down that road, and I glance over, just now and again, and I spotted it right away one day, a few days ago. Today's the, what's the date of the day? 16th, I think I'll check, just for my records, because I like to log these things in. 16th of April 2023, it's a Sunday the 16th of April 2023. And I say, I noticed this probably a couple of days back. It was difficult to get here because of the shift sitting on. It'd be dark when I finish, so this is managed to squeeze it in before my shift now, because it's work again today. So I'm able to log this in, as my official record. So not only am I putting it on to share with my viewers, and also logging it in as well for my own records, because I record these. So I've got a file that I record lots of stuff in, and some of the things in the file I could publicise, other things I don't feel I want to publicise. But this one I can publicise, so hence what I'm doing. But at the same time, it is an actual, an official record for myself. So I log these things in, I log stuff in, or things that I regard as strange. And out of these files, some of them I could share online, others I'll keep private. But this one I could share online. And as far as I'm concerned, as I said earlier, to me it's like the whole stone circle has moved from that corner. It's like it's moved upwards to nearer the road and nearer the centre. This was all a football pitch. There was a football pitch here at one time. Now I do know that they've done work. They've put this path round it, and the fence there's always been there, like as far as I remember. I know that the fence has been put there recently, within the last, 10, whatever years, 20 years maybe. But I was there the last time I logged it in. But the whole site, as far as I'm concerned, the whole circle site has moved up recently, within the last 2-3 days. Because I was driving the route along there, and I looked down and I spotted it, and it caught my attention. Hence why I'm here right now today logging this in. I wouldn't be here otherwise. I mean, these stone circles are interesting in their own right anyway, because it's mystical, I suppose. But I did log it in. I've done an article on them as well, much earlier on my YouTube channel. So as I say, as far as I'm concerned, the whole site's moved. Now we're talking about like Mandela effect phenomena. Now when I say that, it's only I'm just referring it to as the Mandela effect phenomena. I don't know what's going on, what's actually happening. I don't know, but there is stuff online. If you type in the Mandela effect, you'll get articles online that'll explain its version of what is going on, or what it's called. You'll get lots of examples. There's lots of YouTube channels out there online that discuss or talk about or refer to the Mandela effect phenomena. Mandela effect. I've done it on my channel earlier as well. I've talked about it, but like every time I mention the Mandela effect, I always say to you, or the viewers, or whoever I'm saying, it's up to you to decide what you make of it, because I can't explain it and I can't tell you what it is, because I don't know what it is. I'm still wanting to learn, but there are lots of theories out there online. You could research it online. But as I say, online is one thing. I always quote that, because what you get online is one thing. What you experience firsthand when you're at something is another thing. It goes to what reality is, your five senses. If you take that as ultimately reality, then that's what, as far as it'll be for you. But there could be more to it, more than the five senses. Well, I believe there's more than the five sense reality anyway. In other words, what you're seeing might not necessarily be, there could be more to what you're seeing. You might be filtered. What you could see, you might see so much, and other aspects can be filtered. I don't know, but I could tell you, I know what I feel. I know for a fact what I remember and what I feel, because it's in my head. I remember it, and I wouldn't be here now if I hadn't noticed something. And like I say, as far as I'm concerned, it wasn't even that long ago I done a video on this. I was here not even overly. I brought friends here within the last 2 or 3 years, so really very recently. And as I said, right away I noticed they were further up towards the road and further into the centre. And I know they've done landscape, and that sign, I know they've put that there recently. But the whole site wouldn't have moved like that. That's the ground, the fence, it wouldn't move because they would leave a trace, you know. So that's why I'm talking about the Mandela effect phenomenon. Say if you look back in this whole dimension, in this timeline dimension, you find, I guess, all the records will prove that it was always here. But when I talk about timelines and different dimensions, that's where it gets complicated, because some people might just think, oh, that's enough and not going to be any, it's just, you know, some people might just dismiss it right there and then. So I tend not to, I say that it's up to you to decide. But the timelines, again, that is just a reference to what's referred to online as the Mandela effect. To mention timelines online when they're talking about the Mandela effect phenomenon. Now that's only what I'm doing now. When I even mention it as Mandela effect, I didn't name it Mandela effect. I don't even know if it is the Mandela effect. There's loads of them. I've come across many Mandela effects, or what could be referred to as Mandela effects. Now they could all be different. They could all be because of a different reason. But I don't know what it is. So I'm not even going to claim to know what it is. But what I'm going to do is log in what I remember. And I know this video might not mean much to you. It may mean something to somebody that could relate to it, that might even agree, or they might not necessarily agree. I'm not asking them to agree. I'm asking you if you happen to remember it. Because it's not about agreeing with me. I know what I remember. I'm not trying to convince anybody. I'm not trying to tell you that this is existing or not. No, I'm just explaining my experiences. I know what I feel, and I know that they've moved up from that corner up to here and nearer the centre. Now, as I say, I've got loads of Mandela effects on the channel, or things that could be referred to as Mandela effects that I could relate to. So, as I say, that's just one of the ones that I thought I'd log in, and then also logging it in from the record as well, so I can look back and just record it for my own reasons. But I could share this one with you. So it's the Balgarthno stone circle on the north. That's right, you know, west. It'll be the west end of Dundee, because behind me now is Charleston housing scheme, and down there is the A90 Kingsway. So it's on the sort of, I don't know, you could say the west. It's not really north or south. It's on the west edge. It's between the north boundary, which is actually further up that way. The north boundary of Dundee's up that way. The south boundary is further back that way. This is right on the west bit. In fact, what to do if you're interested, just type in Balgarthno stone circle and you'll get directions on how to get there. I'd done an article on it on my channel about 3 years ago, because I only started doing YouTube in 3 years ago, actually, to this month, April 2020 I started, and it was one of my early videos. I'd done an article. I was just basically filming this stone circle and showing you, and just mentioning where it was and that. But you can look back at the channel if you want. But I did take interest in it. And actually, coincidentally as well, another thing that's maybe more synchronicity is that just recently I watched a video on YouTube, and it was about stone circles. It was about stone circle. I'm not going to name the channel or anything like that. I'm not doing that. Not yet. I don't feel it's right to name it just now. But I watched one recently anyway, and I left a comment, and in reference to the comment, I used this Balgarthno stone circle in reference. I referenced that in the comment, basically. In other words, I mentioned these stone circles in the comment to that video, right? And that was before I noticed that they'd moved. So I find that odd as well, that only just maybe a couple of days, because it was only a few days ago, 2 or 3 days ago anyway, that I noticed the move. But maybe 2 or 3 days before that, I actually watched the video and left a comment on that channel, and I made reference to these stones, and that was totally unrelated to what I'm on about now with them being moved, Mandela effect. So it was like I just mentioned them maybe about a week ago from now, and only between that mentioning and now, these stones have moved. And prior to that, I hadn't even thought about these stones for a wee while, for quite a while actually. So I watched this guy's video, then I mentioned comments, and in the comment I mentioned these stones, and then that was it. I didn't think much, I just mentioned it. And then just a couple of days after that, I was driving the buses up there, and I looked down and saw the whole thing had moved up nearer the road and much easier to see now, and nearer the centre of the pitch. And that was just by another mega coincidence. So I wouldn't have thought about them prior to it. They were two separate occasions so close together in reference to these stones. So I find it really bizarre anyway. I just thought it worth logging in. Really odd, but I'm logging it in anyway and then sharing it with you. So as I said, as far as I'm concerned, they were further down there, and it wasn't so easy to find, because when I drive the bus up and down that road, I just glance over of it, you know, just when you're driving along, you just have a wee glance over now and again, just you look at the surrounding areas. There's a football pitch there anyway, so I'm checking to make sure nobody's going to be running out on the road, or a football going onto the road. So I'm looking this way anyway, just to make sure it's clear. But as you do, you just look around, you're sightseeing. You're not sightseeing, but just glance down every now and again, because it's a place of interest for me. And I just look down, and sometimes it's hard to see it, you know. Well, it was hard prior to that. It was hard to see it. I was just driving past, and it just glanced down and, you know, think that the stones are there. And this day, just a couple of days ago, I was driving that 10 and looked down, and it was so easy to find. It just stood up like a sore thumb. I thought, no, they've moved. There's no way it was that easy before. These stones were not so far up towards that road. They've moved nearer the road and nearer the centre of the pitch. As far as I remember, as far as I'm concerned, they were further down there, and it wasn't so easy to see from that road. Now they're so easy to see. And as I say, I don't mean they've moved them physically, officially, because if they'd done it officially, they would have recorded it. And why would they move ancient stones officially anyway? There would have been record of it. There's absolutely no record of it. So when I mention timeline, it's just in reference to as what's referred to as the Mandela effect online. Now I say that only in reference because I don't know what it is, but I do know what I remember, and I know for a fact I wouldn't be here today logging this in if they hadn't moved in Mandela effect style. So anyway, I've got to get my dinner. I'm starting shortly, so I've logged it in. What I'll do is I'll turn this round and I'll show you just what they look like, you know, just from the standpoint. I'll show you what they look like anyway. But the main purpose of this was to log it in. As it say, you might not be able to relate to this. It might not mean anything to you because you might not remember it. You mightn't even know that they're here. And even if you did, you might not feel as though they've moved. But I certainly have. And this is just one of many that I've experienced in the Mandela effect phenomenon. Many personal experiences, and some of them online that I could relate to as well. Because there's lots of examples online. You could type it in, just type in the Mandela effect phenomenon. I'm not even going to explain why you're calling it the Mandela effect, it's far too long. Just type it in. It's officially recognised because it's even, they've made films on it. There's an X-File, an episode of the later X-Files. There's even a film called the Mandela effect, so it's widely recognised. Now as I say, it's up to you if you believe it or not. And you can be a skeptic, that's fine. But like I say, I can't actually say that there is a Mandela effect because I don't know what's causing it, but I'll tell you one thing I'd like to know. I'd like to learn what's going on. So anyway, I've went on. I'm going to just turn it in and quickly show you, and then I'm going to have to get my dinner and get my shift. Just going to have to cut it really short because I'm out of time. And I've got to get going, so I'm just going to have to very quickly show you, just very quickly. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of time to spend here. But this is the Balgarthno stone circle. It's meant to be an ancient stone circle, that's what it's recorded as. And as far as I'm concerned, it was down there, it was harder to see, it was tucked out the way, further back there. Now I do know, as I say, they've done landscaping, they've put this path around it and everything, that was there anyway. But that looks as though it's been done recently, it's been done up recently or something. But I was always aware there was a path around it, but it certainly was not as far up as the centre of this grass area. This area here, there used to be a football pitch not that long ago. Now, the football pitch is over there. They're not playing football there now anymore. And they always used to play football there. They might still do, but this circle was definitely not as near to there before. Definitely not. It's moved up as far as I'm concerned. It was further down, tucked out of sight out there. Right, anyway, that's it for now. I'm going to have to just leave it at that. As you say, if you're interested in have a look at this stone circle, just type it in on Google map it and you'll find it. And now that it's moved, if you remember it the way I remembered it, you'll find it much easier because it's certainly easier to see now. So, right, that'll do. Okay, right, so I'm gonna just have to go now. Duty calls. Hope you found it interesting. Make what you like of the video, it's up to you. I just thought I'd log it in from my own records and I thought I'd just share it with you. So, that's just one of the videos I thought worth mentioning. Okay, right, see you later. Bye for now.